So the live stream has been started. Hello and welcome to the NFDI talk. My name is Kurt Wilges and I work in the NFDI Association's office. In our NFDI talks, scientists from different disciplines present exciting topics about research data, infrastructure, and research data management. All talks are live streamed and saved on our YouTube channel. After the talk, we invite you to ask questions and to discuss the topics. This interactive part will not be recorded. In today's talk, Jürgen Windeck will present DMP4NFDI, Machine-Actionable Data and Software Management Planning in NFDI. Jürgen is Deputy Head of Research Data Services at University and State Library Darmstadt. His current focus is on general RDM consulting, training, and data management plans. He is responsible for the RDMO service, NFDI for ING in the engineering consortium of NFDI, and since 2024, coordinating the DMP4NFDI project. Before Jürgen's talk, Jana Tacek will give us a short introduction on the basic service initiative base for NFDI. Jana is service steward for data management, archiving, and ingest in base for NFDI. Please, Jana, we are looking forward to your introduction.
Thank you very much, Kurt. I'm very happy to give you just a short introduction on base for NFDI now. So let's get started. So what is base and what are we doing actually? So I would like to start with the fact that base for NFDI is not an NFDI consortium, but actually instead we are a joint initiative of all 26 NFDI consortia. And the idea behind base for NFDI is the following. As you can imagine, there are several IT services which are interesting not only for one consortium, but actually for many consortia across disciplines. So, for example, when it comes to setting up login processes, when it comes to persistent identifiers, or when it comes to the creation of data management plans. So that is the overall goal of base for NFDI. We want to establish and to support the creation and development of these so-called basic services. So in the end, those basic services are going to be operating on an interdisciplinary, cross-domain and horizontal level. There are several criteria we want these basic services to meet. These few here are only the essentials. But for example, we want basic services to be easily usable for as many consortia as possible. We want them to bring added value actually to as many consortia as possible. We want them to be interoperable with national and international standards and services, for example, the European Open Science Cloud. We also want our basic services to be utilizing synergies between existing solutions. So the teams are not supposed to reinvent the wheel here, but they're supposed to bring together existing solutions and partners for collaboration and consolidation. So what is it now that base for NFDI does? Base for NFDI provides the framework for all of this, for developing these basic services. So essentially, we do two things here. First off, we give funding. So we allocate flex funds in a transparent manner to teams that have basic service ideas so they can apply at base for NFDI for these fundings. And second off, we support these teams actually in doing the development of these basic services. For example, we directly collaborate with NFDI sections and the working groups in there because this is the place where all of these basic service ideas and proposals come from in the end. So we're in there looking out for potential basic service ideas and helping to define them, for example. Also, we came up with the idea of the stepwise service development. So every basic service has to go through 3 service development stages, which are namely initialization, integration, and ramp-up stage. And in total, it's going to be 5 years of service development. We also support the services and things like user-driven requirement analysis, for example, when it comes to user experience or software quality. And also we support in things, for example, like monitoring, evaluation, training efforts, but also communication and outreach things. However, base for NFDI does not provide operational basic services. That's very important here, and it's meant in 2 ways, actually. So base for NFDI does not provide those basic services. We are not the service provider. During the development of the basic services, the service providers are the PI institutions that applied for developing these services. And after those 5 years of development, there's going to be a committed long-term service provider. And second off, we do not provide operational basic services because during those 5 years of our funding, those basic services are not fully operational, but they're still under development. And only after those 5 years, they're going to be fully operational. All right. How do we define such a basic service now? A basic service is always a mix of technical and organizational things. So technical and organizational solution. And it typically includes things like storage and computing resources, for example, but also software, processes, workflows, and support for service desks. Important here is that those basic services can have different levels of technicity. So there can be basic service teams developing their own software solution, for example, but a basic service can also just use other technical solutions and just promote them and establish them within NFDI, for example. So as I already said, to summarize, a basic service ideally creates added value for all NFDI consortia and users, which can be different target groups, essentially, for every basic service. They also bundle existing services, and they're supposed to be sustainable and scalable in the end. And for example, also trackable with KPIs. So I also said we have several criteria for those basic services we want them to meet. And this is here an overview of criteria we want those basic services to meet even before they enter one of our phases. So on the left-hand side, you can see our 3 phases. Initialization is 1 year, integration and ramp up each 2 years. And the icon with the hands is the consortia approval. So for example, before a basic service enters initialization phase, they need to be supported by at least 25% of the NFDI consortia, and they need to have a technical readiness level of already between 3 and 4, and also, for example, come up with a concept and SWOT analysis. In integration, that consortia approval raises to 50%, and also the technical readiness level goes up to between 5 and 6 at least. And also the teams have to come up with a firm financial calculation and concepts regarding interoperability and international integration. And in ramp up, that consortia approval raises to 75%, and the technological readiness levels to between 7 and 8. Looking forward at the end of ramping up to a technological readiness level of 9. All right, last slide. So these are our currently funded basic services that are already also have started the work. So in the second phase, in the integration phase, we have currently 3 services that are being funded. There's, for example, one on identity and access management, one on persistent identifiers, and one on terminologies. And there are currently 5 which are in the first phase, in initialization phase. For example, one on Jupyter Notebooks, knowledge graph infrastructure, one establishing a software marketplace, and there's one on research data management training. And also there's DMP4NFDI, the one on data management plans for NFDI. And this is where I give up the word to Jürgen. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Jana, and also Cord for the introduction. I would share my slides in a second. So you should see my slides. Okay, perfect. Welcome to my presentation on the DMP4NFDI basic service. As Cord said, I'm working on data management plans in the NFDI for ING consortium, but I'm also working on the DMP4NFDI basic service that started its work last year. And let's start with the big idea behind the service. I assume that you're all familiar with the DMP concept. It's a systematic approach to plan the data management for a project, for larger collaborations, for a research group, and so on. For many, data management plans are a text document that you need for a funding application. And unfortunately, this document is often forgotten also during the project. Our goal is the machine-actionable DMP. All the information that is stored in such a DMP is metadata, which is relevant for other stakeholders, for data stewards, for funders, data protection officers, and also for other data management services. And it should be leveraged to connect services and create a smoother data management process for researchers to help them organize the data management for a project. And to be clear here, we don't want to extract this information from the text document as it is shown here on the picture. We want to start with the structured information and DMP tools, and the document then might be just one representation of this information later on. In NFDI, there are a lot of working groups. There's also a working group on data management plans called InfraDMP, which is part of the section Common Infrastructures. We had several workshops and meetings with representatives from the consortia, and one outcome of our discussion is a paper on a vision for data management plans in NFDI that we published last year. We think that current DMP practices are too much focused on the text and the funding application. When it's just a mere document, it doesn't allow to connect services, and there's often also not enough up-to-date information available in DMP templates, missing standardized answers or controlled vocabularies. And this also means that it's really time-consuming for researchers to fill it in. We want to establish the MA DMP, the machine-actionable DMP, which means DMPs consist of structured data. DMP tools are connected to other services, which simplifies the planning and management process. And also DMP can act as a communication hub between researchers, data stewards, service providers, and other stakeholders during the research process. The machine-actionable DMP is not a concept that we developed, but an idea that has been around for several years by now. But we want to build our DMP infrastructure on this idea to better connect services in NFDI. And we think that DMPs, or you must be more precise, DMP templates and DMP tools should be used to communicate standard workflows and best practices, which is also one of the goals of the Bund-Länder-Vereinbarung for NFDI. They should be used to raise awareness for data management issues and challenges. They can support data quality assurance. They can connect all involved stakeholders, and by all these measures, support the creation of fair data products. But in order to achieve this, we need DMP tools in NFDI. And so DMP for NFDI started as a basic service in June last year. It's in development, as Jana already pointed out, in the initialization phase. Last week, we got also a positive response to our funding application for the next phase. So there will be an integration phase starting in July this year as well, where we will add more consortia to the service. Our central objective is to establish and foster the NFDI-wide use and application of data management plans and software management plans, and also all analog concepts, always understood here as machine-actionable DMPs and machine-actionable SMPs. And also when I'm saying DPs during this presentation, this always includes all the similar concepts. Sometimes they're named output management plans, but since this is a term that's not broadly used, I will stick to DMP for now. The service supports the consortia by hosting the open source tool RDMO. We foster the interoperability and integration of data management plans by developing a standard for the NFDI, and also support the creation of DMP templates according to the standard. And we offer guidance, training, and support for the consortia. And the aim is to enable them to provide a good DMP service for their community. We built our service, of course, on the work of InfraDMP. You don't have to read through the list of workshops we had here, just information that we did a survey, we had several workshops, we had working groups and a lot of exchange meetings over the last couple of years. And based on this, we created our service idea. And the service offers a customizable RDMO client for each consortium. with a separate test and a production environment. So as a consortium, you can test the tool, develop DMP templates for your community, and improve it until it's ready for your users. All clients share a common database, which is needed to share DMP templates or modules or questions across NFDI consortia. And this also allows consortia to build common modules that can be reused by other consortia as well. And we provide support for the integration of RDMO with other services, which means we are doing software development using the API or the plugin architecture from RDMO to connect RDMO to services of the consortia. We maintain a centralized vocabulary to ensure this interoperability I mentioned before. And we develop a framework for DMPs and NFDI, which we call the NFDI DMP template framework. And we offer support and training for consortia to develop templates together or to support in the work with RDMO or with outreach measures as well. In order to establish the machine-actionable DMP, we need a common standard. RDMO provides an internal vocabulary called attributes that can form a good basis for this. But we need to maintain also a common framework for NFDI, for example, to ensure that plugins or connectors that we create can be reused, can be developed and maintained together. And this is what we call the template framework. And what we are developing right now and what we will maintain also in the future. This framework will support the template creation. It will ensure interoperability, but also allow customization via modules, so that each consortium or each institution that uses this framework can build DMP templates according to their specific needs. We will ensure that this framework will be compatible to the MA DMP standard that was developed by an RDA group a couple of years ago and is already implemented by a lot of DMP tools. And we will also support the further development of this standard in the future. As said, we want to connect DMP tools to other services. I'll show you a few examples here. For one, RDMO is open. It has an API. It's based on Django with a plugin architecture that can be reused for this. For example, you can generate option sets in RDMO based on database queries. You can connect RDMO to re3 data, for example, display a list of suitable repositories for your community. Or one of our use cases connected RDMO to sensor databases to allow a search in RDMO and store additional metadata from about these sensors then in the DMP project automatically. There are several plugins available, for example, for project management tools like Open Project, connectors to GitHub or GitLab, or you can query terminologies, GND, Wikidata, or RAW or ORCID as well. RDMO is also used by the consortium MARDI to import from and export information to their knowledge graph. In this case, they're using RDMO for mathematical workflows, not for data management plans. But it shows that RDMO can also be used for other concepts and ideas. And together with colleagues from NFDI for Biodiversity and NFDI for Bioimage and others at the last RDMO hackathon in Munich, we also further developed an existing template for RDMO that allows a connection to Zenodo. With this plugin, it's possible to create a dataset record on Zenodo, and the information stored in RDMO is then automatically added as metadata there. So as a user, you just have to upload the files in Zenodo and are ready to publish. It's now also possible with this plugin to publish the DMP itself on Zenodo. And all the examples are shown can be easily adapted to connect other services as well, other databases, other repositories, whatever is needed in your community. During the initialization phase, we worked together with several consortia use cases. We have already 4 productive clients for the service by NFDI for ING, NFDI for Chem, NFDI for Culture, and for Agro. We have set up test environments for NFDI for Memory, for Earth, and for MARBI. And we already have 5 more consortia for which we'll set up a client starting in July in the next funding phase. And yeah, to get a little bit more into detail, I brought an example from NFDI for ING. This is our RDMO service, available since 2022 at rdmo.nfdiforing.de, available for all researchers in engineering sciences. When we set this up, we created a DMP template for engineering sciences based on the questions from the DFG checklist. We took part in an RDA survey on DMPs and collected a lot of information from the NFDI for ING community that we also incorporated into this template. And we also had workshops in NFDI for ING on DMPs and brought this all together to create this template. We provided this template since the start of our service, and then had additional feedback loops, exchange with the consortium and also our community, and then created an updated version that we're offering since last year as well. And next to the DMP template, we're also offering an SMP template, so for software. In this case, we're reusing a template developed by the Max Planck Digital Library. In our community, and probably in most communities as of today, developing research software plays an important role. In NFDI for ING, we have developed a persona for researchers that during their research are most of the time developing software. And with colleagues from the related task area, we then had a look at this template, developed some ideas for improving it for our community, and then together with the colleagues from the MPDL, we also developed the new version 3 that we're offering now in our service. One important aspect of our templates, since we have the automation and processing of the data in our DMPs and SMPs in mind, we are using a lot of standardized option sets in our template, as you can see in the example also on the right, so that we are able to further process this information or more easily, as you would have when it's just free text. And since integration is an important topic for us, we implemented the NFDI AI login as first pilot project as well. Allowing every researcher to use the institutional login to make it really easy to get access to our service. We developed 2 plugins for software management plans, one to collect information from existing GitHub repositories utilizing the software SOMAF, to fill in the an SMP with information that's already there, and also one to export information from an SMP to a CFF file to improve the software documentation. Both plugins are the result of a hackathon on machine-actionable software management plans that colleagues from NFDI for ING, NFDI for Data Science organized in Cologne last year. And we also a publication of this is also available. At the moment, we're working on further integration of NFDI for ING services, starting with the NFDI for ING Collections Explorer, which is a register of engineering-specific repositories, data catalogs, and data sources. And in the second phase of the consortium, we're also planning to connect even more services. Our biggest DMP project in NFDI for ING is the DMP review service. The general idea is that we want to offer an automated review of DMPs, providing recommendations for users based on the answer they are giving during this RDMO questionnaire, to support researchers in developing their RDM strategy. We have colleagues working on a research data management maturity model, and also on fair quality criteria for engineering sciences. And this work we want to incorporate into the service to derive also those recommendations and offer them to our users, or provide them to our users. We also want to make use of the newly developed feedback feature that allows users to easier contact DMP support during the questionnaire on RDMO. So if at any point some question rises, they can more easily contact us and get help. And we're also planning to integrate some AI-based assistant in the next funding phase as well. When we started with the idea of this DMP review service, we created an early prototype and tested this with colleagues from NFDI. And then we quickly realized that we need to make some adjustments to the RDMO software, especially to the front end. For example, we want to make use of the task feature in RDMO, but we need a few more features in order to provide this service as we want to. So we started a process to develop a new front end for RDMO. On the right, you see one screenshot of the new design. We developed this design together with the RDMO community. Luckily, we were able to reach a consensus in the community about the new design and are working on the implementation also right now. So much for the NFDI example. Let's get back to DMP4NFDI. We are almost at the end of the initialization phase. In integration phase, we will start in July. And then the goal is to add more consortia to the service. For this, we're organizing incubator projects. We have already arranged 13 of those projects with NFDI consortia who want to make use of our service. And there will also be a regular call for additional incubators as well. During the integration phase, we will improve the template framework. We will add additional features for RDMO, for example, on the plugin management. And we also added a new focus topic on software management plans, a topic that came up also during an infra-DMP meeting last year. We thought it might be a good idea to add this as a focus topic then in the integration phase. Those incubator projects, they will take up from 3 to 6 months. They can be, for example, on hosting RDMO. We can support in template development. We can integrate RDMO with other services of a consortium, and or these services can focus on training or outreach activities. And as said, there will be a regular call so that you can consortia can also work with any of those topics with us together. We also created a service cooperation model, a document that describes what we offer as a service and also what is needed from a consortium in order to implement this service. So it defines responsibilities. And if your consortium is planning to provide a DMP service, please get in touch with us. DMP4NFDI at lists.nfdi.de. Where you can reach the whole team and let us discuss your idea. As said, there's a whole team behind this. DMP4NFDI is provided by the University and State Library in Darmstadt for the RDMO hosting and the service integration, by the University Library of RWTH Aachen University, which is working on this template standardization, and by the colleagues from ZB working on support and training. If you want to get more information, we have a website available at dmp.services.base4nfdi.de, or you can join our regular drill fixes. The next one will be on April the 29th. This drill fix is for all consortia who already are using the service and also for all who are interested to use the service in the future. You if you're interested, just send us an email. We will also present at the next Base4NFDI Roadshow on May 27th. And we will also organize a DMP train-the-trainer workshop in June this year. And if you want to meet us in person, we will be at the FDM Campus event in Göttingen and also at Cordi in Aachen. Before I finish my presentation, just one more slide. At the moment, we're doing a survey on DMP training needs. It's focused on training needs in NFDI consortia, but we're also interested in collecting needs outside NFDI. So if you are somehow involved in the creation, use, or training on DMPs or software management plans, or have experience with RDMO, we would greatly appreciate your insights. I will share the link later on in the chat as well. And with this, thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Jürgen, for this great overview of the results and activities for DMP4NFDI. Before we start the question discussion session, we say goodbye to our viewers on YouTube. In our next episode of NFDITalk on May the 5th, we will get an introduction on how to make data fair at Daphne by Bridget Murphy, the speaker of NFDI's Daphne Consortium. We hope to see you in 4 weeks. So goodbye to the viewers on YouTube, and I will stop the stream now. So this will not be recorded.